there's no breathing space between pushing play and hearing me scream in your ears, because we're here to talk about geek news. We try to monthly get our stuff together to bring you the hottest headlines from Geekospheres, but I've had a pretty busy summer, and I know that, at least on my side of things, that has really thrown a wrench in putting stuff together. And to be honest, I've been so busy that I don't even know if you guys had reasons that we weren't recording. But yeah, I was traveling. I was too busy going to as far away from home as I could to catch COVID and bring it back. Phenomenal success.
Classic.
Yeah, no, it went really well. I did a great job. So, very productive summer. What have you guys been up to? What have I missed?
That would require me remembering the last time that we talked to each other.
I think the last recording, probably.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, my schedule's been pretty tight too between several things. Nothing worth to really talk about on a podcast.
Sure.
But,
the rare restraint of a male in America, understanding that what he does day to day is not interesting podcast material. If only I could learn that lesson.
One day.
One day.
Well, when half of your life is podcast related, Colin.
Oh my God, dude. The amount of, it's just been a lot of stuff. I had the good fortune to go to GCX, which is a convention that was spawned by the Destiny community. It was in Florida. I went out there thanks to Cross, and I met his whole team, and that was great. And then everyone started, after we flew back, everyone was like, hey, I think I'm getting sick. And then I was like, I feel awesome. And 2 days later, I did not feel awesome.
Florida seems like a great place to catch COVID, to be honest.
Is a prime COVID catching season as well. So just everything worked out. But it was cool. I got to see a lot of Destiny content creators. I got some cool stuff. Conventions are not my biggest thing, but it was like good networking. So it's just been a lot. Like, that's the biggest thing, but it's been a lot of like actually saying, hey, I'm gonna do this for my livelihood. Turns out it takes a lot of time. So here we are.
Yeah.
Chatter, you were going to say something. I was going to... there you go.
Yeah, I mean, with winter coming around, it's going to be COVID season. We don't have cold season anymore. It's COVID season.
Cold vid.
You know, like back...
We have both.
No, why not?
Back in March, you know, they said, hey, the COVID pandemic's over. By the way, there's going to be a new variant this season.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the term pandemic probably referring to like this.
It's
now just
endemic,
there. Yes.
Right? Is that the other word?
Yeah. It is now endemic. It's now just life. It's no longer like an emergency to contend with. It's just like gotta look out for it. I will say though, it was very mild this time around. So all in all, not too bad.
It just kind of like annoys me that we never took it seriously and then are like, okay, it's over, after doing very little serious work to deal with it. So like, that's fuckery.
Yeah, but you know where a lot of serious work is happening? Video game studios. It is about to be an absolute onslaught of AAA, highly anticipated releases, beginning with Starfield in like 2 days from this recording. After some sleeper hits really surprised us over the year. It's just...
this year has been like a lot of games coming out back to back.
A lot of
like, how do I hold all these games?
Right, yeah, and a lot of really good ones too. I haven't beaten Tears of the Kingdom yet because my partner, she keeps taking it when she goes to work somewhere else, and oh my God, you guys will probably understand where I'm coming from, and probably also understand what it's like to try to communicate this to somebody else. She kept using the excuse like, I have this game to play, you have a lot of other games to play, so it makes sense that I would be the one to play this one. And like, kind of,
didn't you buy it for her?
Yes, I did. So like on its face, you can kind of
she's justified.
Yeah, well, I bought it. I bought it to excite her, but specifically for both of us on the Switch that is co-owned. But like understanding that it would mean a lot more to her than it would to me. Like I knew that going in. But throughout the months of the year, like this game came out May 12th, and I haven't beaten it. And I play games a lot. And so I'm just like, hey, I really want to beat this game because September's coming. And I'm trying to explain to her the absurd amount of video games that I'm going to have to keep up with now, also for work. And she's just like, nah, but you have other games to play. I'm like, that's kind of the problem. That's what I'm bumping up against here. And when she was
That's how I was when I was a shitty little kid with my picky eating, being like, no, I should get that because it's the only thing here that I like.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I didn't begrudge the motive, but like it got to be too much. It got to be so much occupation of the game that when she was finally here, she was like packing up for another trip. I pull up the Switch and I'm like, let me check her account and check my account. And I said, Rebecca, you know how much I play video games. I'll sink hundreds of hours into a game if I like it a lot. I do that with mobile games that I don't even like that much. How much do you think I've played the game? Since May, 45 hours. And I said, Rebecca, how much do you think you have played the game? You, a mother of 3 children. You, somebody traveling to take care of your sick parents who is so busy that you can't even let me borrow the Switch. 300 hours. 300 hours. And like
that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, and so like she's sitting there like going about her stuff, and like I saw it here, she's like, I was like, it just washed over her like, oh, I see what he means. I see what he's talking about. So I got to the final boss 3 days ago, and I haven't played it since. And I'm good.
No. Like when I after I finished Tears of the Kingdom, it's like, okay, now I can like try to move on to some other games or maybe like catch up on the games I put on pause to play Zelda. Start playing that, and then it's like, hey guys, Baldur's Gate 3. Ooh, that seems fun,
we're gonna talk about that for sure.
And then like indie game that I've been like anticipating for a while, Sea of Stars just came out like
I've been seeing stuff about
yesterday as of recording this. And let me tell you something. I'll talk more about it later, but Sea of Stars, really good. I've played a few hours and it feels like something special.
The caliber and pedigree of games is such that multiple games journalists and personalities I follow are just universally saying, I don't know how I'm going to survive the next 2 months. It's cracked. There's so much shit happening.
Like, let's see, we got Resident Evil 4 remake at the beginning of the year. Then
not even the year. I'm just saying September, October. September, October is going to be bananas. There's like they're literally shuffling games around to try to make space for each other because like Spider-Man, Assassin's Creed, and Alan Wake 2 were all supposed to come out on the same day, and it's just like,
oops.
Okay, I understand there are trends here, but like this seems like if we had the same thing in February 2022, where it kind of felt like the COVID delay that hit a lot of studios pushed everything to kind of the same mark. There was a really crazy week in that where like 4 AAA games came out at the same week, and this is just that nonstop. Like from Starfield to November, it's just you're getting at least 1 AAA game a week, and it's kind of bananas. And I think that's actually where I'm just going to segue into kind of one of the few stories I do have, because I feel like a lot of the news I've been following is tech news, because a lot has been going on in the realms of generative AI and various lawsuits and yada, yada, yada. Stuff that's not like geeky, stuff that's just more like broadly ethical. That is like worth talking about if you guys want to talk about it. But to me,
unethical rather.
Extremely. And Baldur's Gate 3, I barely played it for a couple of reasons. But Baldur's Gate 3 released at the beginning of August, and I love, like, it was a sleeper hit to everybody. The game is a sequel to the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 games that came out a long time ago. Baldur's Gate obviously being a setting in the Dungeons and Dragons world, I believe the Forgotten Realms universe. And it's just a turn-based hardcore CRPG. You just go on the computer, and it is literally playing Dungeons and Dragons. You have dialogue choices that matter. You have to roll a d20 to do shit. It is D&D video gamified. Not like, what if D&D was an action game? It's like, no, what if you used a computer to play D&D? And so...
No, really, like, just the small details is immaculate. Like, the way they've managed to make things that don't feel like they should be translatable into video game and, like, figure out how to translate them is crazy. Like, Like
It is.
you know how like in D&D you'll have like the DM like rolling dice behind the screen and you're like, what was that, dude? And then the DM's like, don't worry about it. You have that in the game where it's like the game will be like perception check failed.
And then you're like walking around and it'll just say like,
and you're just like,
yeah,
what
no
didn't I
context. I'm
perceive?
literally walking around a village and I just see three failures on the screen behind me, and I'm like, I'm just walking. Wow, how did I fuck up? What did I do?
What did I fail? What did I fail?
Mm-hmm.
And the game gives you no context.
Yeah, and then I got killed by a bear.
That's
but
great.
I think the interesting thing about it is not just that it's a D&D video game. CRPGs have existed for a while. I believe there are others that have, and I don't remember their names, but like other games that try to emulate D&D and also give you like more powerful tools as a creator to like design your own campaigns. This is just like a straight up and down video game that you play, you're the player, the game is the dungeon master, and it is immaculately detailed to the point where whenever a game comes out and gets a lot of hubbub, a very common place to look for success, a very common metric is concurrent players on Steam. And this one made a lot of headlines because concurrent players obviously means people playing the game at the same time. That's very common for multiplayer games to see those skyrocket because everybody's trying to get in at the same time. For single player games, your Elden Rings, your Hogwarts Legacies are like the games that really spike it because there's huge anticipation for them. There was anticipation within the community because it's been in early access for a while. But my favorite thing that indicated the true sleeperness of this game, not just to players but to the studio, was a developer tweeting, I think I need to stay clear of IT because I told them they should expect around 100,000 people playing the game at the same time. It peaked at over 800,000, which is number 9 of all time on Steam.
Damn.
Yeah. So it really kind of took everybody by surprise. And the reason that a lot of people like to cite, on top of just the very, very finely polished quality of the game that Chatter mentioned, is also that it is just feature complete, no microtransactions. Here's the game, go play it. And it's not to say that there aren't.
Too.
Yeah,
it's actually finished.
And it's not to say that there isn't a place for that. Like, I have had games enriched by microtransactions, and there are some people who like don't mind doing it. But those are exceptions that prove the rule. That generally speaking, it just kind of makes your game feel slimy. And this is just a very classic feeling. You buy a game, you get a game, you play the game, and hopefully you love the game. I've barely played it because it's not on Xbox yet. Because the co-op doesn't work on the Xbox Series S, and Microsoft won't allow them to release it unless it's on both the Series X and the Series S. So I'm just like, meh. So I'll get it on Mac. Mac version doesn't come out till September 6th, which is the same day that Starfield launches officially. So fuck me. And I'm like, cool, I'll play it on my Steam Deck. Bumper broke. Got to send it in. 2.5 weeks out for repair. And then as soon as I get it back is when Rebecca says, here, you can have the Switch and play Zelda. And I'm like, I'm never going to play Baldur's Gate. So it's been rough over here. But the game is truly astonishing in terms of, I think, the level of complexity in terms of respecting your decisions. It's not since Mass Effect have I played a game where I felt like my decisions mattered so much. And it's become it's very common in role-playing games to save scum.
Also, and also it's just like you got a party of like interesting and colorful characters, which is like who, you know, all feel like play part of the story. Like the example that's coming to my mind is Final Fantasy 16, right? That is also another good game that came out. But you know, Final Fantasy 16, it almost feels less like an art. It feels
Final Fantasy,
like
I very firmly, buy into the commentary that Final Fantasy 16 is an action game. It's not, and
yeah, it's very much an action game.
It's not an RPG.
It's not a bad game. It's a good game,
sure.
But like, one thing that's like, feels weird is like, you know, you have your main character and he's a good main character, and then all the side characters don't feel like members of a team so much as like you're
they
coach and cut master and stuff in a boxing match.
Yeah, kind of like people built
right.
to like if you're trying to pitch an idea for an action movie, you're just like, we need the muscle, we need the brains. Like it just kind of feels like people crafted to like fill a role, but aren't really fleshed out beyond that. And you're right, that's not true of Baldur's Gate.
Whereas in Baldur's Gate, you get to be the main character, self-insert, whatever.
You get to spend however many hours you want trying to roll up your character.
Listen, first time playing Baldur's Gate, like 50 to 75% of the playtime was just me figuring out what to make my character look like in the class and all that crap.
But I'm going to set myself the challenge to not save scum. The idea that you just like make a save before every interaction, and then if you don't like how it happens, just roll it back. If I die, and I go back to the last checkpoint. If I get really like hard stuck or game broken, I'll reload a checkpoint. But chatter, I don't know. Tell me, am I crazy to try to not save scum going into this game, or is that just something I need to embrace?
So like, there's this whole debate about save scumming, and it's just like, guys, stop being weird gatekeepers. If you don't want to save scum,
I'm fine if other people do it.
Well, as for what I recommend, listen, there have been some like hard fights, some even that happened early on. So like, I totally get if you want to save scum, but like, there is a kind of joy in role-playing joy in like playing through your mistakes. So go for it.
That's kind of what I'm thinking of. I feel like combat might break me, but the idea of like, if I make a choice that fucks something up, I think I want to because everybody is communicating that this game is really good at handling your mistakes. Like a good dungeon master in D&D, making a mistake is not, you're punished. Making a mistake in D&D shouldn't just be, you're punished. It should be, okay, you don't like what's happening, but it's going to give us more storytelling opportunities. And I'm excited to experience that. I want to see how resilient the game is. And I think I just need to get over because I'm not kidding. I'm a nasty save scummer in other games where I'm like, I will kill one enemy, save. Kill another enemy, save. It's disgusting, and I need to stop it.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely reloaded saves because like a character had died, and it's just like, I want to see that character's story. Yeah. So no, I guess I'm not gonna let that through.
I guess the closest I've come to that is in like 10 years ago, I played Mass Effect 2, and like everyone died in the last mission. And I told all my friends, I'm like, hey, I'm excited for Mass Effect 3. Only one of these people survived though. And everyone I told that to said, hey, Colin, I didn't know you could fuck up the game that bad. What the hell did you do to get everybody killed? And I was like, I'm not going to play Mass Effect 3. And I didn't, because it carries your progress forward. So I didn't play it until the remaster came out like 2 years ago. But yeah, I'm stoked. It broke so many expectations in terms of quality and in terms of player count, and I think is rightfully continuing to make headlines for being a unicorn. And it was in a year that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out. Within days of release, I kept hearing everyone say there is actual Game of the Year competition, and I don't know who's going to win. And that's exciting because Tears of the Kingdom was like shockwaves through the industry, and to have competition legitimately is so exciting. That's kind of the only geek news story that really grabbed me, aside from like just a lot of the like gaming announcements. Destiny has had a very odd, tumultuous month that they revealed their final expansion, the Final Shape. We knew the name of it, and now we know more about it, but not that much more about it. And it seems like I landed in Florida for this Destiny convention to meet my Destiny coworkers right as they put out an article that was basically 6,000 words saying, hey, it's hard to make a game, so we're not going to build more maps. Sorry. And it just going into a convention, it was really bad vibes. And I understood a lot of what they were saying, but like, it's been frustrating.
Kind of like when Overwatch. Kind of like when Overwatch 2 was like, it's so hard to make single player games.
So
that thing we promised, not happening.
Yeah.
Sorry, people.
That's Overwatch 2. I think is the most egregious because they were like, we're gonna make a sequel because it's gonna have PvE. actually it's just going to be patched to the original game without the PvE, and then the PvE will come later. So your game is now Overwatch 2. Yeah. But well, we're not going to do that. So now your game is Overwatch 2 for absolutely no reason. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I had zero emotional investment in Overwatch 2. I didn't like try to play it, didn't do anything with it. Just like I knew Blizzard was gonna fuck the series over more.
Yeah.
So I just
even from the outside that was starting to piss me off, and I've never played Overwatch 1 or 2.
I've played a little Overwatch 1. It's great. I see what people latch onto, but yeah, man,
it was great.
Yeah. That's something.
They soiled it.
I remember just feeling the vibes of that of that article that Bungie published, and then like 2 weeks later, the game director, and this is a studio that has like they've dialed back comms because last year, their lead community manager got actually harassed, threatened, and stalked because the game had inclusive material in it. And it's
Never mind
like
all
the
the sexual assault going on in Activision and Blizzard.
Yeah, well, I mean,
we're not going to harass them over that.
No, not at all. Instead, they look to Bungie and they say, "Oh, well, you have a gay couple in Destiny. I'm going to like look up where you live and send you a bunch of threats." Like, so Bungie has a very good reason to not just volunteer information. Recently, though, there was a massive victory in that
Blizzard
lawsuit.
Or Bungie?
Bungie is Destiny. Blizzard, Activision King. Activision Blizzard King is Overwatch. But this lawsuit happened at Bungie, and Bungie responded by saying, "We're not gonna talk anymore." And everyone's like, "You need to talk to us about the game." And they're like, "Bad apples spoiled a bunch, guys. Like, I don't know what to tell you." They've since won a lawsuit against the stalker, and like it set an actual precedent, giving various jurisdictions actual teeth to like go after people that are harassing community managers and companies. And like, it was a huge win. Bungie's litigious streak is really paying off to the point where their game director, after that article, got on a microphone and said, "Hey, one, we're going to make a dedicated team to build maps because you're right, we should do that. Two, I am going to live stream the game on a regular basis to talk to you and take feedback while I play the game." The guy running the studio that just had to set legal precedent because of how horribly they are harassed just said, "I'm going to go on Twitch and let you yell at me while I play the game you're accusing me of destroying." And that
should be fun.
That gave a lot of people a lot of like, "Oh, he's serious." Like, that is a scary thing that he's committing to doing. And they just put out a little update that turns out to be the best update in like a year. So it's been real whiplash on this side of things, from like lawsuits to devastating updates to actually fixing things that people have had problems with for a long time. And of course,
what happens to the game after the final expansion?
The final expansion is the final expansion in this story. They're going to keep developing it. We don't have a ton of details, but they're like reworking their live service model because the current model people are bored of it. Part of why this little update is so fun is because instead of giving you like, here's a time-gated thing where every week you do a mission and that's it, they basically built like a deck of tarot cards that you have to unlock by doing shit in the game. And it's random and kind of fun. Like it turns it into like a mini deck building game. And it's like, I think what they're going to do is try to give themselves more opportunities to do weird shit like this, instead of just like, all right, here's a mission, wait 3 months. All right, here's another like it gets really old. So given that Bungie was bought for $3.5 billion because of its ability to handle live service games so well, it's nice to see them evolving their approach, but it's in a weird spot where we just went through emotional whiplash as a community, and maybe arguably the most successful live service game out there. Nobody knows what's going to happen after March. So kind of a weird thing. I didn't want to get too in the weeds, but yeah, a lot of weird shit happened. I think the lawsuit thing happened in June. Article was beginning of August, and now I have to do all this as soon as Starfield launches. Cool. So gaming's been wild, and it's going to get wilder. I don't know if you guys have any stories that are maybe not gaming related or more gaming related.
I've got stories that are not gaming related.
Hit me.
What do I want to start with? Oh, we got a trailer for the live action One Piece show, which by the time this episode releases, the show will be out yesterday.
Really? Oh,
We're recording this on
Yeah, I
Wednesday.
didn't realize it was that soon.
It's coming out tomorrow on
Mhm.
Thursday, and we're putting this up on Friday. So, I'm a little mixed on it. I mean, the cast seems fun. It looks a little bit, I don't know, like it looks like a show versus a movie.
Yeah.
In terms of like, all of the like effects, budget and stuff like that. But it looks like it could be fun, or it looks like it could be bad.
So my understanding
I'm gonna watch it to find out.
My understanding of particularly what went wrong with like Cowboy Bebop, like tonally, was that it was very flat and kind of low energy and did not match the personality of the original.
Yeah.
The trailer for this, whether or not it is the real lifeification of the manga or anime that you'd want, I can't really comment on. But at least in terms of energy, it seemed goofy, a little campy. Like, it seemed like it was leading into the sillier aspects of it and not trying to be like, how do we make it for normals instead of making it for the geeks, the nerds.
Right.
Like,
and Chowder can speak to this too, but like,
he sure can.
I was gonna say Chowder can speak to this too, but most of the other thing about it is like most of the cast was like handpicked by the actual like writer of the manga. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Right, like
which is promising.
Handpicked by the writer, and like the guy they got to play Luffy, like Oda's like, yes, this is exactly what I imagined. So it's like, that speaks well, and like, when you actually like hear the cast and like see them do their thing, it's like, okay, this is good. This is good. Like, we got passionate people who like care about the source material and like are like absolutely capturing the energy of the character, and they're also like, and they also like mostly look the part, so like,
I did see the very predictable critique that the actresses playing the female characters were not quite as well endowed as the completely fictional and hand-drawn sourse material. And I'm like, this is a very strange thing to be upset about, people.
One Piece characters in general have some very ridiculous and very exaggerated proportions, because like you'll have like a guy who's like towering over everybody, like 15 feet tall.
Luffy's a stretchy boy. Dude. Like the whole premise is that you have very strangely proportioned things, and you need to design things to contrast against that as well.
Yeah, exactly. But also the way Oda draws most women in his stories, they all have almost Jessica Rabbit proportions, and it's like, nobody's gonna look like that.
And hey, people are complaining about that, but they're not complaining that they didn't give the guy playing Usopp a 15-inch prosthetic nose, because they should have.
No, then they're gonna run into the Bradley Cooper controversy that's been going around.
Oh yeah, with like him having like a
he's playing Leonard. They like
Bernstein. Made his nose bigger.
Yeah, he's playing Leonard Bernstein, who's a Jewish, Jewish man and very famous composer, and he has a prosthetic nose. And like everybody's like, he's doing Jew face, and then Leonard Bernstein's family came out and was like, shut the fuck up. We worked with him on the movie.
He's doing
We're all
Leonard
Jewish. He's doing our dad face. And like some people were like, this doesn't look like Leonard Bernstein's actual nose. And I'm like, it kind of doesn't. But I mean, you also, the weird thing about it is you can't just like take one person's nose and stick it on another person's face. There's so much contouring that goes into it that I'm like, I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, it's not identical to him, but Bradley Cooper is also not identical to him. Did you guys see Looper? I mean, how they tried to make Joseph Gordon-Levitt look like Bruce Willis? Like, doesn't work.
Yeah, when you like are telling me this, my mind goes, oh god, what horrifying, bad faith, stereotypical hook nose did they give Bradley Cooper? But it's like
It's just a big nose.
sounds
Yeah,
like
you look it up and it's like his nose is slightly bigger.
It's,
which it would be. 'cause
and it's
got
very like long
prosthetics.
and straight. Like it's just a big nose, and people are like Jew face, and I'm like, that's not even the stereotype that people attribute specifically. At that point, it looks more Italian stereotypical. So, but anyway, but yeah. Anyways, One Piece. Continue if there's anything else. I'm so sorry.
so
Yeah, not much else about that. But oh yeah, go ahead. Unless Chowder's got more to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the live action Cowboy Bebop is also just it was poorly written, just absolute garbage writing. That doesn't like the line I always go towards is when like Jet Black is talking to this woman and like he's like, "Are you blackmailing me?" And then the woman is like, "Yes, I am, because you are black and you are male." And she's saying this to a black guy, by the way. So it's just
Yeah,
It would be more confusing if she weren't, honestly.
Yeah.
Man, this
And
doesn't
it's just like-
apply.
that's peak writing right there.
like something that was
So
like
yeah, hopefully.
very understated and emotional. Just no.
Yeah.
But like with One Piece, it's like there are lines where it's like, yeah, no, that's One Piece for you. Like, where Luffy's like, all the great pirates call out their attacks. It's like, yeah, that's the kind of guy Luffy is. That's I would definitely
That kind of
say
meta,
that fits with one.
meta, like let's poke fun at what we actually are, but also embrace it. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I just remember
Yeah.
watching the trailer, and oftentimes I find like I'm not a fan of many of the stylish trappings of anime, but this was one where I watched it and I'm like, oh, it actually feels like it has personality, and it's not the Last Airbender flattened and some crazy attempt to over dramatize it. Like it's just like, no, we're a fucking cartoon. Get over it.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way the first time I watched this trailer. Because like the first time I watched the trailer, I was like, woof, that looks rough.
Yeah.
Because I also didn't realize when I first watched the trailer that it was for a show. I was thinking it was like for a movie, and I was like, yikes, guys. Couldn't have gotten a little bit more budget on that, because it has a very much of an energy of like, oh, you kick someone and they go flying off the screen and you can tell they're on wires. It's like very kind of like the first X-Men movie kind of unconvincing physics kind of things going on. It's just like, But yeah, I mean, you can forgive a lot of that for the show. And again, like a lot of it being sort of unpolished for the sake of budgetary reasons is less important than it just having like the correct energy and people who actually care about it working on it. So hopefully it'll be good.
I guess we'll see.
I have no huge attachment to, the original One Piece manga or anime. So, but I've always been kind of vaguely interested. So
Sure.
I'll probably watch it. So that was one thing. One Piece, you might say. We got here's something that's something Netflix is doing. Something Netflix is no longer doing is the Masters of the Universe movie, unfortunately. That got dropped by Netflix, and last I saw they were kind of looking around for different people to pick it up, and that was a while ago, and I haven't heard anything about it since. So that's a bummer, but woof. Okay, another quick mention of some interesting Transformers news. At least I find it interesting. I can't imagine you'll find it that interesting, but they, just to get ahead of it. So next year is the 40th anniversary of the brand. Launched in 1984,
Cool.
2024, 40th anniversry. So there's it's kind of an expectation that a lot of things are going to be popping up. And one of them was an announcement by Takara that there it might be a new like line of figures that seem to be like reissues of original figures, but with like updated articulation, as opposed to they've been reissuing these figures for like every few years for since it started, right? And they're just like straight up reissues. There's sometimes like paint changes or like slight molding changes to accommodate different safety standards and stuff like that. But usually they're just the same things. And then of course there's been lots of just like wholesale new figure updates of like there's been billions of different Optimus Primes that aren't all based on the original toy or anything. But they announced these 2 new Missing Link figures, which are basically just like reissues of the original Optimus Prime, but with updated joints. You don't have to like take the hands off and just like hide them somewhere anymore. They actually like fold away.
Thank goodness. That to me is
just meant to be like a more
the idea of a detachable piece that you tuck away on a Transformer has always been my greatest pet peeve. I'm like, this is this is bullshit.
A lot of people in the community too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, a lot of those are the original line of like, you know, the original Diaclone figures that got, you know, imported and made into the original Transformers had stuff like that. Like the original Optimus Prime is a great toy, but you do have to take the hands off and just like put them in a case on the figure.
Fair enough.
Sometimes you don't even have a place to put them. But yeah, so this is there's 2 updated versions of that. One of them is more toy based and it comes with the trailer and all the stuff like that. And then one of them is more cartoon based where it's just the figure on it in and of itself without the trailer. So it's a bit cheaper and it has a bit more of a cartoon inspired deco where like the original Optimus Prime toy had a, you know, darker blue and yellow eyes. And then the cartoon model had a lighter blue and blue eyes, just to name a couple examples. So yeah, that's something that I've always thought would be kind of interesting because like a while ago, they started doing something similar to that with Masters of the Universe figures with the Masters of the Universe Origins line, which were completely new molds from the original figures, but they were like pretty accurate to the original toys, just with more articulation. And that's been kind of a hit for Mattel. So I'm wondering if some of that didn't, you know, influence Hasbro to make decisions like that, because it's a pretty similar concept of just like the toy as you remember it, just a little bit better rather than like a wholesale new thing, which I think is pretty exciting.
I mean, you see,
they are a bit pricier than I would like them to be. The one without the trailer is $70 and the one with the trailer is $120, which also unfortunately is not a whole lot more than what reissues usually go for. Like I think the last reissue of Optimus Prime was like $50 without the trailer, which I think is a bigger cost than what you're actually getting with it, but it does have like die-cast parts and stuff like that, so
fair enough.
Whatever. But I don't know. I think that's pretty exciting just because it's kind of like since Masters of the Universe Origins, you know, went on for a while ago, I was like, they should do this with fucking Transformers.
And now they are.
It's just a cool idea.
No, it's nice.
And
it's like a remaster. Like I don't love when there's
exactly.
Like except when George Lucas does a remaster. That's the one that people don't like. That I've been told by geeks that one's not good.
Well, it would be bad if they were doing it and permanently changing the molds, you know, so that like you couldn't make the old ones anymore.
Or doing it and like actively like getting rid of the old one, or like you know like hunting down the old ones and getting rid of them because they want the new one to be definitive.
Yeah, because everybody knows Optimus transformed first.
Stupid. So yeah, that's it. It's an exciting announcement. It's not going to come out till, you know, like in the middle of next year, but I'm excited to see if they do more like that, and maybe with some figures that would be at a cheaper price point. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my one bit of Transformers news. What else do I want to talk about? Ooh, yeah, we've got HBO or Max or whatever the goddamn fuck they're calling themselves nowadays.
Still two different things.
They announced in the Adventure Time world, we've got a new Adventure Time content coming up with a new Fiona and Cake series, which if you're unfamiliar with what Fiona and Cake is, it's the gender bent Adventure Time universe, which really interestingly actually started as like real fan fiction of Adventure Time, and then the creators liked it so much that they like
Rebecca Sugar. It started with Rebecca Sugar, I believe.
Oh, is that true? I didn't realize that. Is that how she got an in on Adventure Time, or was she already working for them before that?
I can't remember.
That's the kind of story you don't hear much.
For them, but I can't remember.
I feel like that's a story from like 80s and 90s TV where people would mail in spec scripts to TV shows and like, you got the job, kid, and it's like, what? I feel that's wild if true.
Well,
wow.
she was for sure already working in the industry by then,
Yeah,
but I don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
if because I know she wrote a lot of the songs for Adventure Time, but I
Mhm.
want to say probably she was already involved with them before that because
Yeah.
I think her involvement started pretty early. But yeah, so there've been like a couple episodes in the Adventure Time series that were just like these Fiona and Cake episodes, and it was kind of explained away as being like the Ice King's fan fiction about about Finn and Jake, but then
Yeah.
there's like some slight implications in the series that there's something real happening there that the Ice King is just like fucking picking up some broadcast from and being
Mhm.
crazy and writing it down. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. It's actually I think going to be like an actual series as opposed to all of the other post end of Adventure Time
Mhm.
things, which has just been like
Like little
Mini
one-off
series,
things, right?
like the Distant Land specials were just like 3 different like episodes that were like half-hour specials or whatever, or 4, I can't remember, I think 4.
I just muted a
I think
cough
this is actually going to
sound.
be like full half-hour length episodes that are kind of focused on a more of like a young adult audience,
Cool.
which is cool.
I just muted myself.
So that's pretty
because
exciting because that was like
making a cough
Go ahead,
sound,
sorry.
and I realized that I muted it for you guys, but it's still definitely going to be in the recording, and I'm like, God damn it! So, oops.
happens. But yeah, so that's exciting because that's like Adventure Time famously I think left a lot of sort of loose ends just because the whole show is just kind of like there's very few things that are definitively defined like intentionally so that things can be kind of up to your imagination. But that was one where it's like, oh, okay, I would actually like to know more about like how real Fiona
Yeah.
and Cake are, or if it's just all some fever dream by the Ice King. So that should be pretty exciting.
Yep.
And then one more story. I wanted to talk about the trailer for The Creator that was put out this or last month. I can't remember. Which is a new sci-fi movie by 20th Century Fox. Are they still calling them Disney?
It's
Whatever,
20th
whatever the
Century
fuck
is
they're
the
calling
name of
themselves.
that studio. I don't know if written
Yeah.
by, but directed by Gareth Edwards of Godzilla and Rogue One fame.
Yes. And after the trailer dropped, a Reddit user noticed that one of the shots in the trailer of an explosion in a city looked eerily familiar and realized that it was actually like really heavily based on the real life footage of the explosion in Beirut from 2020. Was that in 2020?
I think it was
Oh.
2020,
What year was
2021. Yeah, it was like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. And like if you see the side by side, it's like very clear. It's like, it's not just like, similar. It's like,
Yeah.
this is that footage with effects over it or
Yeah.
whatever. Like there's like the silhouette of the skyline is exactly the same. And it's just like, ooh,
I know
that's rough. Like
I know it's very common to use real life stuff as reference. Like you have to if you're an artist because you're not simulating this
Sure,
stuff. You
yeah.
have to do
Reference.
interpretation. Reference.
But-
And that's the thing is like when I heard
Yeah.
the headline, I was like, oh, the reference is probably just closer than people give it credit for. No, it is for all intents and
it's
purposes
using that footage.
That footage. It is like I can't see anybody make a defense otherwise. Even if like every pixel has been replaced by a computer, it is the same thing. So it's that was surprising.
And it's like
Yeah.
I kind of like have they gone out and said whether or not it was like an intentional choice that was just like fucking
Probably
tone deaf, or if it was just like someone trying to skirt it by to
I feel like it
save
would be honestly
time.
even hard for them to tell because essentially the way this stuff is going to work, and our friend Jocelyn could probably give more even detail than I could, but like a lot of times for a movie of this size, shit's going to be put out to like a bunch of different houses, a bunch of different VFX houses. So odds are this shot went to an artist who made this choice, and it just kept getting like put up for notes and stuff and like just kept getting fed up the chain. So the decision was probably not made like by a group of people. It was probably made by like a dude.
No, for sure.
And so it was
I'm just kind of wondering if the decision by the dude was, intentional or just trying to save time.
I imagine
or if it was just Google the first explosion and that's the one that came up and you didn't realize.
That's where my mind goes. Destiny also had contributing to bad vibes a moment where in one of its cutscenes someone was like, "Hey, That's my art. I made that art, and it's in my cutscene. Everyone's like, Bungie, what the fuck you doing? It turns out the person submitted it to Bungie with a waiver of, like, Bungie can use whatever the fuck they want. But, like, what ended up happening is exactly what I suspected, and what I think happened here. Bungie was like, one of our partners that animates the scenes looked at it and thought, oh, this is okay to use because they had a little checkbox on it. And then it got used in, so we reached out, we compensated the person after. But I don't think we've heard anything official. My guess is that's what happened. It was just like one or two people at a different studio made a decision and were like, oh, cool. They said it was okay. And then when it gets to the public, it's like, that's not okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, because it's like just one, it's like, I'm sure someone would have noticed it eventually, but it seems plausible that it could have made it through the entire pipeline without anyone realizing that that's what that footage was from. Even the person who used it, if they just like Googled explosion and weren't doing proper research.
Yeah. Would any of us here have known if it wasn't pointed out to us by Reddit? I would not have. Absolutely not.
No.
For sure. No. Yeah, no.
So it's fucky.
And
but
like
it's
with
wild.
how like rushed VFXs, like the VFX industry is, it's like you only have so much time, bro. It's like
I have that's the thing is like, this is clearly not a good thing to do, in my opinion. It's not breaking any laws or regulations. It is just kind of gross to say, here's a tragedy that actually hurt a lot of people. And we're just going to make that a part of
sci-fi.
Yeah. We're going to ignore that context and use it as a tool in our entertainment. Like, that feels bad. But when you zoom out and look at, okay, it was probably an overworked person crunched for time, and then it went through a million people that would have had no way of knowing that this was a problem, it's kind of hard to pinpoint a specific breakpoint where you're like, this is where the ethical mistake happened. It's more that the entire system
but I think you can say that this is like a consequence of a systemic problem of people being overworked and not having enough time to double check things and yada yada. It's like one of the other things is like, hey, this is a result of the shitty way that we treat VFX workers, is that corners are caught and it's not caught in time, and then it's just like, oh, whoops, now you're like insulting a bunch of people who went through a legitimate tragedy. Like, someone's like, the company should ultimately, I feel like, still be responsible for that and being like, hey, I am
sure it will. I'm sure that it's gonna land on somebody. But no, I agree with you completely. Every individual in the process of that, I think, has some reasonable excuse. It's the system that has no excuse.
Right.
That's just based on my speculation of it.
But yeah, that's all I had this month. Yeah. Just a bunch of kind of shorter stories.
Before we pivot to Chowder, I have a question for both of you.
I was going to say groundbreaking, but maybe after that last one, that's not the right choice of words.
I was going to ask because in my mind, the big movie event since our last conversation was obviously Barbenheimer. Both movies have done phenomenally well. Barbie's
I haven't
like...
seen it.
I
haven't seen either.
Oh, either. I thought you were making a joke that you haven't seen Barbenheimer. I've seen them both. They're both excellent. They're both really good, really fun, really different. Barbie, being a PG-13 movie, is setting
Mutant Mayhem.
I was about to ask.
Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is Mutant Mayhem.
This
really good.
That is what I wanted to ask you guys,
fun,
because those are the movies I've seen recently, and they're wonderful. They've set a lot of very cool precedents, and both doing phenomenally well. But I heard so many good things about the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I don't know you both saw it. Is there any meat on that conversational bone? Like,
I liked it a lot. I was not without issue. It didn't like overly wow me. The one thing I can say for sure is that the animation is stunning and the art style is really cool. They like make everything very. Do you ever see well, I was talking about this with Chowder too. That the last oh my god, words. That stop motion animated movie with Key and Peele. Wendell and Ways, is that what it was called?
Oh no, I did not.
It's on Netflix. Okay,
yeah.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, to me it reminded me of like,
it has a very like asymmetrical kind of like, Tim Burton-y kind of style to it, where like everything is just like a little bit ugly. Like the turtles are the most appealing characters by far. Yeah. In terms of like, it kind of does pulls like the Shrek trick of making all of the like human characters just like a little bit grotesque, so to like humanize the non-human characters.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's a really cool like art style.
Yeah, to me it reminds me of like MTV type stuff, like before MTV. when MTV was like, actually about music, but like just that kind of like stylish, kind of grungy kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It's kind of rare because like nowadays everything feels like it needs to be like very clean, very pretty. And don't get me wrong, I like pretty looking things, but also there should be room for like ugly stuff, deliberately ugly stuff.
Like us.
Well, I was gonna ask.
No, we're not deliberately.
I've been trying really hard. I wanted to ask because, like, from what I can see in the trailers, I think the obvious comparison, just because every non-Pixar looking thing nowadays is compared to Spider-Verse, and I think Across the Spider-Verse did a lot to innovate even what the first movie did. How would you, like, to me, because in the trailers, I didn't get a super strong sense of the uniqueness of the art style. Having seen the whole movie, could you, like, distinguish for me how you would say, like, there's Spider-Verse and then there's Mutant Mayhem? Because, like, what are the things? I got a sense that it's very tactile, but I can't really figure out why. And I haven't seen more than like 2 minutes of it.
It's definitely that same style that Sony movies especially have done a lot of, like the CG animation with like the 2D kind of like more comic-y lines over top of it. I mean, this one's less like comic-y like Spider-Verse is, but like there's movies like Mitchell's and Machines does that too. Not Sony, but the Bad Guys also did that style as well.
Yeah,
so it's another example of that. Yeah, it's another example of that. I would say that it to me, again, just like in the ways we were describing of everything being like less clean and more like jagged lines, like a lot of like surface detail is what makes it look a little bit different to me in terms of like the actual like flow of it, in terms of not just having like, little facial lines and stuff like that. But I don't think there was that much in the way of like, fucking bagel effects or whatever, like onomatopoeic kind of stuff like that. But
sure.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like they're not really all that comparable because they're going for different things.
That's kind of what I want to get. And at this point, I should just see the movie, but I just figured I'd ask.
Yeah, the Spider-Verse movies are very slick, very angular, very, deliberately trying to look like a collage of different kinds of comics, while Mutant Mayhem is like doing, this kind of grunge, a little lumpy, kind of thing that you might see in like certain indie comics, but like it's not like specific to that. And
I see the comparison when you're like looking at it next to things like Frozen. It's just it's like, okay, these are in the same genre, but it's a more of an expansion of that.
And I don't think my palette has been expanded enough yet. So
like like when like Pixar's style was basically being replicated by other studios, they kind of just didn't add a lot to it, and they just for a long time everything just was made to look or resemble a Pixar movie. And I'm glad that's not what happens here. Like Spider-Verse like pushed the envelope in that different techniques, different ideas are being pushed, but like people are doing different things,
This wasn't like, hey, we need to be the new Toy Story. It wasn't, we need to be the new Spider-Verse. It's like, what tools did Spider-Verse give us to tell a new story in a new way?
Exactly.
Right, exactly. It's just like the moving away from the, the evolution of CG stuff being make it as photoreal as possible. You know what I mean? It's just like, we're starting to do more stylistic things.
Always need to look exactly like this.
Yeah, right.
That's
it's just like, it's one of those movies where it feels like, this has a reason to be in CG, as opposed to just like I think it's better this way than it would have been if it were 2D animation, in the same way that I feel that way of like Spider-Verse and Mitchell's and Machines, etc., etc.
Do you feel like this would have been better as the third live action film with large CG turtles?
No.
Okay. All right. Chowder.
I mean,
hi.
Yeah. Hey. Okay. So I don't have like a whole lot to talk about. Like
That's
as I was
fine.
going through Discord, I'm like, did I just not put things down? Or
It was a thin
have I
list. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
but like
been a couple
here's
months, not a whole lot happening.
yeah, I mean here's a couple of things. Firstly, Hayao Miyazaki's last
Ooh, yeah.
movie, supposedly, I don't know. He said,
Yeah, I was gonna say it'll be his last once he's dead.
Hayao Miyazaki's fifth last movie.
Heard this song and dance before.
yeah. This man's a workaholic. He feels like he's gonna like die at his desk, and that's not great. But
I
like,
mean,
the point
hey,
is, Heron,
if it's on his terms, who cares?
It came out in Japan on July 14th, and it seems to be doing well for itself. And like, interestingly, it's going to get a release in September. Dang it.
I recall there being some hubbub around the fact that there was no promotional material for the film. You basically had the name, and there were no trailers, no images. It was just like, name recognition alone, go see my fucking movie. Like, how
and
I'll do it too.
That is some power for an individual to have.
I'd like to go in blind, just be like, hey, what's this one about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice,
it's basically why I'm not like looking at the plot section, because I
want
to go in blind. But like, what I do understand about the movie, it is like slightly autobiographical in the sense that like it's takes inspiration from like parts of his life, and like in interviews he says that like part of the reason for making this movie is that he wants to leave something behind for his grandson. It's like, oh, okay.
Spirited Away wasn't fucking enough for you, bud? You need another one?
I mean, listen, man, this guy's got a very complicated relationship with his family. Like,
fair enough.
I don't know. Every time like Studio Ghibli like tries to make a movie or tries to have Goro Miyazaki, his son, make a movie, it feels like he and like his colleagues go out of their way to sabotage, and it's like, what are you doing here?
Interesting.
Fuck no. Yeah, but
he did Up on Poppy Hill, right? His son.
Or
I
no,
lost that one.
Out on Poppy Hill. I don't remember.
Yeah, I thought that was his son, but I'll look it up. You can continue.
I did not even know there was drama. Again, anime is not really my bag. I feel like I should give Miyazaki films a chance though, because that is
it was Goro Miyazaki who directed Up on Poppy Hill.
Yeah.
It's real good.
I want to find the American release date, but
Dead air, Chowder. We're drowning in dead air. Help!
I'm sorry.
Life raft.
I'm sure you can Google up the American release date. But the next thing I want to talk about is the Scott Pilgrim anime. We got a new trailer for it. It's coming out November 17th. It's going to be on Netflix, which is like, oh, that's really interesting. And from what we've seen, it's like, oh, this looks great, man. Like, it looks the way the comics look.
Yeah.
It moves the way you imagine they would. I don't know.
It is such a weird artifact to me. Like, if you told me, I think the statement, there is a new Scott Pilgrim adaptation that is an anime that will adapt the comics more in depth than the movie did. That statement, total sense in my brain. Edgar Wright is producing. Oh, cool. He did a good job on the movie. Every single cast member from the movie is back. I start to struggle a bit. I have a little bit of a hard... Every single person. Such a strange shot call of a movie where every single side character became like a pretty big star in their own right. This was before.
Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, but like that. What's interesting to me is like the movie is so overly stylized, and it adapts and it adapts the ideas of high energy anime in a way that is like very shameless, and I think works because It is clearly in its own style. And when you talk about like the One Piece thing, it's like, I don't think One Piece is going nearly as far in that direction, but like there's something to be said when you adapt the zaniness, it creates its own aura. So to do such a good job of that in live action and then do it again in anime, I'm like, oh, they might want to distinguish themselves a little bit and really go for something new. And then it's every single performer is exactly the same. And I understand they're not performing directly visually, so there's a lot more. There are a lot more layers of artistry in the middle. But I have a really hard time wrapping my head around what the goal of this is.
I mean, I kind of imagine the goal here is to like basically adapt. Like, you know, when they made the original movie, the comics were still coming out. So like now the comics are all out.
Are you saying,
so I think the goal,
are you saying this is fucking Brotherhood?
Scott Pilgrim Brotherhood.
This is Scott Pilgrim Brotherhood.
It's very appropriate.
Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim Brotherhood. Basically, like, because like here's the thing. After like the fight with the psychic vegan, right?
Brandon Ruth, yeah.
The stories go in like completely different directions. It feels, you know, like things that that are important in the comic are actually brushed off as a joke in the movie. For example, like the Katanagi twins is just a set piece moment in the movie, but like is actually like a significant moment where like they start the process of making Scott's life unravel by having him face the consequences of his bullshit. Or like Nigga Scott, who is super important to the emotional core of the comics.
It's a punchline.
Is a punchline in the movie, yeah.
So I guess it's fair. I guess it's just so.
I mean, the way I see
it,
like, I don't know, to fucking bring my own shit into this, right? Like Transformers, right? Like Peter Cullen has played like a bunch of different iterations of Optimus Prime, and they're not always the same character. You know, like they act very differently and they have their own depth. So it's like I can kind of understand being like, I like what this person brought to the role last time, so I think that they're the appropriate branching off point to be like, oh yeah, Michael Cera is Scott Pilgrim. Let's see how that gets to be expanded in a longer form. I get that. You know, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's just going to be the same thing. Yeah. You know,
it's the fact that it's one thing to say Peter Cullen.
Like
it's one thing to say Peter Cullen is so iconic in the voice of Optimus Prime that we should bring him back. It's saying that fucking Derek Doohickey is iconic in Off-Screen Transformer #4, so they're gonna come back in 15 years for the adaptation. Like, it's cool.
They've done that too.
That's fair. I think it's just, I'm literally just bumping up against the fact that typically when you do a remake, you want to create some distance. You want to create a unique voice. And you're right. It could totally just be like, we like the voice that we found and we found a new way to harness it. It is just so surprising to see such a continuity of creative talent on so many levels this far out in a different medium. That's that, because at the end of the day, like Peter Cullen didn't strap up in the motion capture suit for Michael Bay. He wasn't out there doing somersaults in the middle of a live action set. He was still in a recording booth doing the same thing he always did. I mean, Willem Dafoe's out there doing his Spider-Man fights. Come on.
Dafoe's built different.
Built different. What is he, a Dodge?
A crazy man. Yes.
What's Willem Dafoe's towing
maybe it's
capacity?
like some attempt to like make this a sort of like joint adaptation of both the original comic and also a new adaptation of the movie. You know what I mean? It's just like, because a lot of people, you know, it's like for a lot of people, this is an exciting new way to get like a, you know, the original story like actually told in, you know, in a different medium or whatever. But then probably a lot of people only know it from the movie and loved it for what it was. So it's just like, oh, okay, it's kind of like an expanded version of that. I don't know. I think it's a neat idea to. It's sort of, I bet you it went like Edgar Wright was like, all right, who should I cast as these people? Well, okay, I want him back. And then got through like 5 people and then was like, fuck it, we'll just get them all.
Why not?
Why not? I got them on speed dial.
Yeah.
Hey man,
Yeah.
you want to come?
Come to find out.
Chris, what?
Come to find out, he got them on some shitty bullshit contract 10 years ago. It's like, hey, Chris Evans, I know that you've headlined the highest grossing movies of all time since our last time working together, and it becomes synonymous with one of the most iconic characters in American history. I'll pay you $50 and you can't say no.
Fuck yeah. Love working with you, right? Right?
Yeah, it's such a, that movie is such a wild called shot, and the fact that they are getting back Michael Cera, Chris Evans, Brie Larson, just Aubrey Plaza, Brandon Ruth.
Forgot Brie Larson was in that movie.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, she's
Yeah.
She's Anna Kendrick.
Yeah, she's Envy, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, she is.
Yeah.
God, every time I think about
Aubrey
this
Plaza.
movie, yep. Every time I think about this movie's cast, I'm like, how did this happen? And how did it fail? How did it fail so spectacularly? It's just, such a strange
I
story.
think Eddie
Looking
put it
back,
to me
I just
really
feel
well. One time he is like, the demographic of this movie it perfectly aligns with the type of people that don't like paying to see things.
It also
which is why it failed the first time.
Honestly, my thought is it was just too ahead of its time, man. Like, you know,
Weirdly,
movies
you're
like
right.
It's so
Spider-Verse,
good.
like movies like
Yeah.
Spider-Verse are exactly the kind of philosophy the Scott Pilgrim movie was like doing. It just
Yeah. I haven't seen his two most recent films, but Edgar Wright caught my attention at a very young age before I was like even aware of how to pay. I think Hot Fuzz broke my mind in a lot of big ways, and I'm like, I need to know what this man's is doing. And yeah, I'm excited to see it. Very excited to see it. I think that we've been going for a little while now, and I think we've made some hay out of the most interesting things from the last month or so. But of these stories, going into the onslaught of gaming material over the next few weeks, what do you guys think is the most important? What is the thing that we should be talking about again next month? Because we're like, that's so cool.
That's a good fucking question.
Yeah. I like how we all scrunched our faces.
I mean, what I predict we'll be talking about next month is perhaps two of the things that I didn't get to, but would have if we had more time, was first Castlevania Nocturne. That's coming out September 20th. Yeah,
then you'll have
20th,
plenty of time. Like I said, the gaming onslaught marches on.
Yeah, Castlevania Nocturne, you know, the continuation of like the Netflix Castlevania series, and it's like, yeah, I feel like that might be a big thing. The other thing is, you know, Sea of Stars is really good. I really recommend it to people who like things like Chrono Trigger or Secret of Mana. It's just very good, and like I'll probably like as I play more of the game, we'll have more to say next time.
Yeah,
like from what I have played, it's like, it's so pretty, it's so good, and also it's like so like the choices they make are really good or like the game design choices they make are really good. It's not just about the nostalgia, but like making a worthwhile and quality game, right? Like your characters like climb around the environment, and you know, it doesn't really have any like mechanical, like you're not like it's not precision platforming or anything, but like it gives the world a more tactile
yeah, I mean,
it.
that's sort of a lot of the motivation behind people who like quote walking simulators, Death Stranding style games, where like the mechanical complexity of like a Twitch shooter is not really what you're going for. It's just trying to create something where you enjoy inhabiting the space at a baseline, and getting around that space is a compelling thing. And whether or not Death Stranding has succeeded, I think that
as
idea
well as
has
like
merit.
Yeah, definitely. And as well as like the combat, it's like, oh, I'm seeing multiple mechanics, such as getting like these magic orbs that like when you do a regular attack, it comes out of the enemy, and then like you can like spend those to like power up your next move. And it's like, hey, these are all things that make for like good turn-based fighting, where you're or
Yeah.
making good, where you're like thinking about your resources and making choices, and it's like, yeah, this is it. This is some good stuff. It's not just like going, hey, remember this thing you liked? It's, hey, I'm some pretty hot shit. Like, like games like Hollow Knight, where it's like, nah, I ain't sitting on this. I'm taking it higher.
I think all the points you're making there are why I'm going to nominate the runaway success of Baldur's Gate as my stories for the month. I think that shipping
I've heard a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah, I think shipping something that not only resonates with a lot of people, but also being, well-performing, feature complete. It had a long dev cycle. It had a lot of time in early access, so like it had the resources. But I didn't even talk about how there were some developers from other studios saying like, "Hey, we hope this doesn't become the expectation for games going forward because it's not realistic for other developers." And everyone was like,
"Fuck us."
Everyone else was like, no, this should be the expectation. This is the expectation.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, individual developers I could see freaking out, but again, kind of like the creator thing, it's like the problem is you have a system that incentivizes board members to not invest in the things that make a game like this possible. So
like you're trying, you guys really want to have a casino without the government oversight that comes with casinos.
Pretty much, yeah. They're looking for ways to create that sort of intake. But I think that it absolutely set a bar that nobody was kind of really even realizing needed to be set. Not just for CRPGs, but I think for single player games. This is turning into a year of a lot of really great feature complete, well-performing single-player experiences that are like absolutely consuming people and breaking records as a result. On top of it being a great game, I think it's newsworthy.
Yeah, it's like one thing when Nintendo like makes a game like that. It's like, oh, they're Nintendo. They do their own thing.
Yeah, Nintendo is the exception that proves the rule, and suddenly there's another exception, and that's exciting.
Yeah, like Capcom's doing it. It's nice.
Capcom's been on a tear with their Resident Evil shit lately.
Oh yeah, no, they're killing it with Resident Evil. Street Fighter 6, really good. True. I really like Street Fighter 6, man.
Heard a lot of people did. I couldn't get into it, but I saw everybody else gushing about it, and I'm just not a fighting game guy, so it didn't click with me.
Yeah, no, I get that.
I saw a lot of love.
But like I'm playing it, and it's like, yes, this is it. I'm gonna learn how to play the game. I'm gonna get good at fighting.
That to me is like the telltale sign of like when a game has succeeded, because I can play a game and say I'm having fun. It is so just like, it feels like a lightning strike when you play a game, and it makes you say, I like this so much that all I can think about is how to get better at this. Even if it serves no functional benefit in my life. Like, I fire up Slay the Spire on my phone, I'm like, I'm going to figure out what is the best build for this. The Season of Destiny, instead of having me saying, I want to grind this out, has me saying, I want to master every single thing that's coming up. And I think Baldur's Gate is doing that for so many people who are like, I can't wait to play this again on a different character with different stats and go total goblin mode and murder fucking everybody. Like, I think that's fantastic. So
like, I'm thinking about like when I have a second playthrough where it's like, all right, I'm gonna have this character, like, in my current playthrough I'm playing as the player as like a self-insert player, but you also have the choice to like
the hero characters or whatever.
Choose like the other hero characters. I'm gonna have this character, and she's gonna make out with this other character. I'm gonna ship them.
You gonna fuck the vampire?
Now kiss.
Yeah, basically.
Exactly. Now kiss.
Everyone seems to hate Asterion, and so
vampire.
I might try to get something going with Asterion, because everyone seems to absolutely hate the mans. Jeff, I don't know if you have any contrary opinions or other suggestions.
No, I mean, I've been hearing a lot about Baldur's Gate too, so I feel like that's probably
I
the thing to go with.
I weirdly think that it's not very often that our gaming interests overlap. I think this is the one. I think you could do it, and it's coming to Mac soon.
I've had people recommend it to me.
Yeah, I think you could, especially as someone like.
How much does it cost?
I mean, it's gonna be like $60 or $70. It's like it's a Pokemon. But it's instead of being the same game reskinned and slowly degrading over the last 20 years,
sometimes not that slowly.
This is a complete game unlike Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
Like, look, I love you, Scarlet, but you should not have released in that state.
No.
No.
But yeah, so
nor should it still be in that state.
Nor should it still be in that
that's what
state.
astonishes me is almost a year out there hasn't been I've heard there have been a couple small patches, but anyway. A whole other can of worms. Yeah. I think that is going to be the end of our talk for recapping bits of July and August and geek news there. Come find me next month. Finally a coffee drinker because I'm not going to fucking sleep during the next few weeks of gaming. I apologize in advance for how much I'm going to talk about Starfield. I very much believe in the Bethesda magic, and whether or not this delivers, I'm going to find out. So
we'll see.
We'll see. I've been Colin. You can find me elsewhere. I've been doing a lot of Destiny work for Astacross and for my own channel. So just come play Destiny with me. I'm actually having a lot of fun. I'm just tired. I did like 3 videos yesterday, so I'm bouncing back.
Hi,
Fair.
I'm Timo, or Chowder.
Okay. Just go out of order here. Fine, you go.
Fight,
you go, Chowder.
fight,
you go.
Okay.
Motherfucker.
Hi, I'm Timo, or Chowder, whichever you prefer. You can find me on Twitter at Timo_Chowder.
No, you can't.
I think you mean X.
Yeah. Fuck
you mean Elon Musk's everything app?
I'm never calling it that. It's Twitter. Also, Twitter is burning down, so you can also find me on Tumblr at TimulChowder. So yeah.
Come hang out on Threads.
There you go.
It's give their money to Zuckerberg instead.
You can also find me on the sister podcast, Dice Populi. We just did a 5W about
don't even know. Don't
Christopher Nolan's dick. All right.
Not true, but honestly, who the fuck? Yeah, it was. The premise was Pat was late for a recording, and I was like, let's get something out of this time. We got something.
And I'm like, hey, great. There's this thing in
Chatter
Divinity where you do like a little improv thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. Leave it for the people. It's called 70 millimeters. Chowder had maybe one of the most chaotic dungeon master responsibilities I've ever seen. It's out now. Go take a listen.
And I've been Jeff Leavitt. Following that, you can find me on either of my 2 Instagram accounts. One where I do art stuff. That's things I wish existed with a dot between each word. And one where I post toy-related things. That's toys.n.art. And also my YouTube channel where I do toy-related things. What are you showing us? A fucking butt plug or some shit? Oh my god!
It's a muscle massager. I wanted to put it on camera because there was buzzing off screen.
Which muscles?
The right ones. I was doing it off screen and I didn't want people to think I was jerking off in the middle of the thing, so I was like, I should reveal what's happening. I pulled a muscle.
Yeah, now no one thinks you're
now no one thinks
off.
No one thinks the underside of my desk is freshly painted.
It's like, I just didn't want to do that off screen. One sec. All right, here's the thing.
Here's the evidence. Oh, let me wipe this off.
My
first.
YouTube channel is Alchemist Prime Reviews. That's me.
I didn't mean for that to be such a derailment. I'm so sorry, Jeff.
What did you think was gonna happen?
I thought it was gonna be like, what is Colin doing? Oh, I thought it was gonna be, oh, okay. He had a thing. Let's fucking move on like adults. No, we didn't move on because we're adults and we don't let anything go.
It goes in your butt. Everything you have goes in your butt.
In my butt to the left. So thank you so much for everybody who did come and hang out with us. We'll be back in a few weeks trying to recap more geek news, and I won't have this next to me next time, so it won't be quite a distraction.
Not next to him.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
Ciao.
There.
There you go.